You know how sometimes you read a story, maybe a novel, and it just feels so real,
Uh-huh.
like it's grounded in something that actually happened,
Yeah.
especially now with tech and everything online,
Yeah.
having such like real world impact.
It's true. Fiction can be such a powerful way to um, process reality. Sometimes it gets at truths that, just stating facts doesn't quite capture.
Exactly. And that's pretty much what we're diving into today. We've got this stack of sources here,
Right.
some analysis of a novella, some biographical info on our author, details from a preface, all circling around this book called Violetta Digital. The author is Alberto Daniel Hill.
Yeah, and our goal here, our sort of mission for this deep dive, is to figure out how this specific story, this fiction, knits together threads of real experience, especially the author's own life.
And what it tells us about technology, justice, some pretty big themes.
The world we're living in, basically.
Okay, so let's look at the real person first. Alberto Daniel Hill. The sources paint him as, well, a significant figure in cybersecurity. Digital forensics, too.
He investigates digital crime scenes, essentially. And he's an author, a podcaster, and he has this motto, sources mention, human knowledge belongs to the world.
Yeah, I saw that. But what really jumps out, and it seems crucial, is this really intense experience he went through.
His prosecution and imprisonment in Uruguay, it started September 11th, 2017.
And he actually calls that his personal September 11th. That's quite a statement.
It really is. And the sources are very explicit. He maintains he never committed the crime. He talks about irregularities, illegalities, and verdicts based on ridiculous arguments in the whole process.
There's even a detail from his own book about it. Operation Bitcoins. Log into hell. The sources point out the word sad appears 22 times.
Wow. That really lands the emotional impact, doesn't it?
It does, but the sources suggest this whole ordeal wasn't just an ending for him. It sort of fueled his later work.
Exactly. It seems to have pushed him towards advocating for fairer legal processes, particularly around cybercrime, and promoting, ethical hacking, using those tech skills for good.
Okay, so you have this incredibly difficult real-life event, this expertise. How does that turn into a novella?
Well, the analysis we looked at is careful to say Violetta Digital is fiction, definitely not a biography,
Right.
but it calls it haunted by real-world echoes. And it uses the real Alberto Daniel Hill's story, his experiences, his philosophy as a potent inspiration.
So it takes that foundation, the trauma, the cyber knowledge, that knowledge belongs to the world idea.
And builds a fictional story on top of it.
And this fictional story, the analysis says, it's about a protagonist, also named Alberto Daniel Hill, also a cybersecurity expert.
And in the story, after his unjust imprisonment, he gets involved with a hacktivist group. They call themselves La Llama Violeta.
Hacktivists. So using hacking for social or political aims.
Correct. And in the novella, they're targeting systemic corruption, environmental problems in Uruguay, things like the water crisis, issues around the UPM pulp mill, the state water company OSE,
Right.
things that have real-world parallels mentioned in the sources.
It explores that idea of, what happens when the official systems seem broken.
Precisely. And the plot, according to the analysis, involves them leaking data, the Violetta leaks, to expose corruption.
Which causes huge public reaction. Protests.
Yeah, Montevideo ablaze is a phrase used, with slogans like, no es sequía, es sequeo. It's not drought, it's plunder. Really captures that public anger in the fictional world.
And how does the fictional system react?
Intensely. The government labels them cyber terrorists, cracks down hard, but then that crackdown itself leads to more exposure. Something called the Omega Drop reveals illegal state surveillance.
It's like a cycle. And the fictional Alberto.
He makes a sacrifice, ends up jailed again in the story. But after release, he becomes an advocate for reform. So the fiction really mirrors and explores those big themes.
Systemic corruption, environmental issues, the power of information.
And its dangers, state surveillance, repression, all echoing the real-world context the sources touch on.
And the analysis points out that the novella doesn't just say hacktivism is good.
No, not at all. It apparently really digs into the ethical gray areas, the complexities, the potential unintended consequences when people use these digital tools to fight back against what they see as injustice.
So this story, pulling so much from real life, it really makes you, the listener, think about those lines between fact and fiction, especially now.
Yeah, it pushes you to consider the power of information today. Who has it? Who controls it?
And what's the personal cost, potentially, of trying to find truth or challenge the system, especially using technology?
It leaves you with a heavy question, really. One the novella seems to pose directly, based on the analysis. If the official ways to get justice or make change fail, where does the responsibility lie?
And what does it really take in fiction or, in reality to turn those stumbling blocks into stepping stones towards success? Something to mull over.